Hey Lauren, so checking things out, I watched your video. I think you're making great progress, but I know I've said this before. I want you to take a step back. I feel like trying to think how to put this. So when you started working with me, you have great design sense from the get-go, but you need to kind of take it to the next level. And I feel like you're relying on your old talents to kind of pull you through, but I really need you to kind of step up the bar in your primary and secondary forms. One of the reasons why I let you design your own characters is because I see it in you. Like you can do it, but I just need you to push it. So looking like at the this centerpiece right here, you're starting to put secondary details on top of primary forms that kind of could have been pushed further. Okay, so if I step through this history, you're gonna start seeing, me really starting to try to push these design shapes to get more breaks between these primary and secondary forms, because you do have some secondaries in here. So I just kind of started, but I would go through here and really start adding, some interesting shapes so things don't feel kind of as flat. You have a lot of these really flat plates. So if you look through here, you're not really exaggerating any forms. So when you add your secondaries on, they feel kind of stagnant. They feel just very flat, this one plane, and you have some detail etched on it. As I start exploring these forms on just this one piece, you can see how much more break I'm starting to get in the silhouette, even in like these primary and secondary forms. So I don't need you to work, necessarily faster. Like I'm fine with the pace. If anything, I would rather you slow it down a bit and become a designer, like really push it. I feel that's what you want to be. Um, but right now your designs, they're kind of stuck. I mean, they're cool, and in the primary forms you have these great ideas, um, but I think you could do so much more. If you just slowed it down, thought about those primary shapes, looked at them at all these angles. And notice I'm not having to add any more faces, any more details to it, but I'm really thinking about, how these shapes are reading at every turn here. So I want you to get the most out of this as you can, and I think you're like speeding through because you want to get it done. You want this really cool piece, but it could be more. I know I'm kind of being repetitive here, but I really need you to push the shapes. I really need you to start thinking about, as a designer, how the gradients are reading. Don't be afraid to smooth some of these forms out. I love the trim dynamic. Like if I come in here with trim dynamic and start thinking about what these planes are. You were talking about getting these feeling a bit more hard surface. Come in here with trim dynamics, start chiseling away. You're really going to see what forms you have at that point and what forms just disappear. If they disappear with one swipe of the trim dynamic brush, they were never really there. You weren't breaking a plane, if you will. You were adding a detail on top, like right here, that just all went away. That means I didn't have a major plane break in there. And it was just kind of a detail etched on top of a detail, okay? So I would, go through, really play with this. Have some fun with it. Go through each piece and just think about the design. Don't worry about these little lumps and bumps that you're starting to add. Go back through, hit trim dynamic up on all these, change the silhouettes, look at what's interesting at every angle, and just really push this. Have fun with it. Just design is not about, kind of rushing through. And I know you probably don't feel like you are at this point, but you definitely are. There's a lot more you could explore here. So, like just pushing in here on this giant triangle isn't, necessarily adding interest. So if you start exploring, like maybe pushing more of that in, and maybe changing the angle so it goes and tucks up in here a little bit. I I don't want you to follow my design. I want you to make this what you want it to be, but you can push it so much further. So if we just, let me zoom out here, and if you start looking at this piece here and start seeing all these angle breaks, these plane breaks, and then you start looking at how flat these other pieces are as we go through, there's so much more interest you could add to this. So just slow down. Like that's my best advice for you right now. As a modeler, I have a lot of confidence in you. As a designer, I think you're trying to speed through and rely on the skills that you had when you came here. And I want you to improve those skills and go further with them. Okay, so slow down, kind of question your design choices, question what your primary forms are looking like. These big gradient breaks right here are what's going to add interest to your character. So kind of make sure you have them. And when you start adding secondary forms to it, don't be afraid, to go through here with trim dynamic. And if that gradient break instantly erases, then like I kind of said before, it was never really there, and you have to exaggerate it. Okay. So trim dynamic's one of my favorites, especially when we're talking about hard surface stuff. It's going to really help you to kind of polish these edges, start making things feel more hard surface, get rid of some of these kind of lumps and bumps, because some of them are there on purpose and some just kind of came about. So you want to make sure that everything you do is on purpose. So if I'm going through here, I don't want to see like these breaks yet. So I would go through and kind of round that out, think about my big curves first, and then go back through with my secondaries. Each one of these kind of areas here, excuse me, I would lift those at different heights and different spots. So think about that silhouette, how it's changing, how you can add interest. Okay, so play with the design. Like don't rush through this. Don't get to the details. I don't want to see any more details this week. Do not go further than what you have here. I want to see you add more interest. And when you give me your video and you talk me through it, I want to hear you as a designer why you're making these choices. Okay, so good job. I mean, I'm happy with your progress. I just want to push you more as a designer.